Podcast family, the episode that you are about to watch was recorded over a month ago, and it's crazy to me to see how quickly things have changed in just a short month. Everything that we thought was a priority instantly got replaced by the things that actually matter: our families, our friends, our teams, our customers, our neighbors, and our community. And I'm inspired by that. I know that we're in a very trying time right now, but I am just inspired by everybody coming together. That is exactly why this podcast was created, was to pull this community together. And if there's anything that we can do for you guys during this coronavirus crisis, please reach out to me directly or via our website, or just reach out to us. Let us know how we can help you get through this time. That is why we are here. You guys, things are going to be okay. We're going to re-strategize. We're going to shift all goals. It's amazing. All the goals that I laid out in January instantly disappeared. They went out the window. I'm creating new goals for this year just based on everything that's happened, even in the last few days here. So I just wanted to offer you guys a word of encouragement, just let you know that we've got this. We will adapt, we will re-strategize, and we will get through this together as a community. And if there's anything that we can do here at the WHOAGNV podcast team to help you out, please reach out. We'd be happy to do so. Much love to all of you guys. See you later.
This is the WHOA GNV podcast. The podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa.
You are listening to WHOA Podcast, coming to you from Gainesville, Florida. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WHOA GNV Podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa. My name is Collin Austin, and to my left is the best co-host ever, Michael Dees. What is up, man?
That's so sweet. Thank you. Not much, man. How are you?
I'm really great. Hey, so what did you think about episode 100, doing the Mastermind session?
I think it's wrong to have that much fun at work. I mean, it's not really work, but no, it was such a good time. I learned a lot. I think that was one of the things I was most excited about because it was a topic that is just not in my wheelhouse. So I learned a lot. It was a lot of fun. I hope it brought value to listeners. I hope that they got a lot out of it, and maybe it got a little carried away towards the end. We'll find out. I'm looking forward to going back and rewatching it.
Yeah, I have to apologize for our listeners because so Andy Malden had sponsored the bar that night and brought some really good liquor with him, and we had wine, we had everything. And, I guess that's what happens when you record like a 2.5 hour podcast. By hour 2, you're just,
right.
You're a little happy.
And you get people that are really comfortable with each other.
Yeah. So, I was a little lit, so I kind of apologize in advance, or I apologize after, I guess, now that you guys have all listened to it. But I hope you got a lot out of it. Excuse me, I'm still trying to get over this cough. We left the set like this, but I don't really like it. So we're probably going to change it back for the episodes and just go this way for the Mastermind, just so you guys know. But we left it for this particular episode, so it's all good. And
always welcome to feedback.
What I really want to know what you guys thought of it. So everybody who's listening, if you can, find us on Instagram, just at WHOAGNV, and just message us and let us know what you thought of the Mastermind episode. And now that we've committed to doing this every 10 episodes, we would really love to know what topics you guys would like us to do in the Mastermind sessions, because we're going to bring in 6 people, topic focused, and just dive deep into that, have a really great discussion, as long as everybody liked episode 100.
Right.
I guess it really depends on me. No, don't do that again. That was too much.
We do a 5-drink minimum.
I guess the only hard part is that there was a lot of voices, so I was wondering if people could tell who was who. You know what I mean?
Probably definitely easier to watch on video than listen to the normal. It's hard to follow the voices. So if you watch on video, maybe it's a little bit easier. But we'll see.
I had fun. I think we should keep it under 2 hours. Maybe split
the goal.
Maybe split the episode in half.
Right.
So maybe release a little bit on Monday too. Guys, we're gonna figure it out. But I would just love your feedback and like to know what you thought of the episode. So message me and let me know. Cool.
So before we get into this episode, we have to thank our incredible sponsors, you guys. This podcast episode is brought to you by the one, the only, Advantage Personnel Resources, or APR as we like to call them. APR is a locally owned professional employer organization and payroll provider. They take away the headaches dealing with payroll, workers' comp, and HR. Let me repeat. They take away the headaches that deal with payroll, workers' comp, and HR so you can focus on running and growing your business. The things that really surprised me, companies that outsource to a PEO grow 7 to 9% faster, have 10 to 14% lower turnover, and are 50% less likely to go out of business. That's some crazy stats, actually. And whether you only have one employee or several, they got your back. They will make sure that you are in compliance with state and federal law. They will deal with the headaches, y'all. Let me repeat, the headaches. So you guys, if you haven't taken action because we told you to in the several past episodes, now is the time. Give them a call. Hit up Todd, Kevin, and the entire team at 352-495-7719 or at apradvantage.com. APR, I am so grateful. Michael is so grateful. We're so grateful of your sponsorship of this podcast. So thank you. You ready to get in this episode?
I'm ready, man.
Let's go. You guys, I'm really excited about this one, and I'll explain why in just a minute. But today on the show, we have Mike Bertulfo. Is that it? Bertulfo? Bertulfo.
Yeah, there you go.
I told you I screwed it up,
You psych
man.
yourself out every time.
I do.
You had it
Bertulfo.
good.
I practiced like 3 or 4 times, too. I'm just going to let Mike do the intros. Founder of Women's Lift Lab, a clinically focused health and fitness facility that specializes in primary, secondary, and tertiary.
Tertiary,
yeah.
Yeah, you should just let me do that.
I'm retiring, folks. Goodbye. Disease prevention from. I should like actually read these and practice them like before the show just to make sure. Disease prevention for women. So, dude, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
So, let me explain why I'm really, really excited about this episode. So Mike is a previous customer of ours.
Yeah, years
right?
back. Years.
Do you even remember when? When you
when I
bought
was in
a
grad
yellow,
school.
yeah.
So like 2011, 12, something like that. Yeah.
It was like
so,
right
yeah.
when we first became a Vespa dealer, right? Like
Yeah,
shortly
actually, I had
after.
to search for a Vespa dealer. I was specifically looking for a Vespa. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got this like yellow LX. It was a 50 LX 50.
It was 50. Yeah.
LX 50 scratch and dent.
That's great. Yeah.
I had like one. They have one little.
Well,
dent on
I
it.
came in looking for a brand new one. I saw the price. I'm like, but then
Can't turn it
actually,
down.
right. Yeah. But you actually, you're like, I think I have something for you. And I was thinking it was going to be scratched up, and it had just a little pin,
Little ding.
little tiny thing. You couldn't even see it, and I was like, for the price, I'm taking it. So,
That's right, folks.
all
That's
worked
the
out.
kind of deals you can get over here at New Scooters for less. Scratch and dent. What dent?
All right,
You can barely
exactly.
see
There
it. Thousands off. Well, this is what's really cool. So I actually put, and I hope you don't mind that I did this, but I actually put our Instagram conversation in here in the show notes, and I'm gonna read this to everybody because I thought this was really, really cool. So Mike had messaged me on Instagram and he said, "Hey friend, just want to say I appreciate all the work you are doing to help Gville out. Love the podcast. Oh, and by the way, this was on July 26, 2018. So this was like 2 months, right? Like 2 months after we had just started the podcast. You probably don't remember, but you sold me a yellow Vespa when I was in grad school, 2011, 2012. It was a scratch and dent that literally had nothing wrong with it. I said, hell yes, I remember. Now that you said something, that was when we first became a Vespa dealer. That's awesome. Thanks for listening to the podcast. It's been fun this far. And you said, yeah, I love the Vespa, but had to let it go when I graduated and moved to Dallas. Nonetheless, your podcast has been an inspiration. I have actually contemplated moving back to Gville and starting a business. I like the direction Gville is going and how it looks to retain its graduating talent. Listening to others on the podcast has influenced my decision to come back, looking to move around summer of next year." And I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Thanks for telling me. Do you mind if I share this with others? You said, yeah, for sure. I had been contemplating it for a while, but just was unsure if Gainesville was the right place. But after hearing some of the stories, the city appears to be business friendly, and I'm looking to capitalize on the city's growth and expansion as I've seen massive changes since I left. And I told you, I was like, dude, if you come back, if you start a business here, I want to put you on the podcast and talk about it. And so you guys, for me, this is the whole purpose,
This is it.
right? This is the whole, like, we're fulfilling the purpose of the podcast, which is to, retain our talent, but get people here, businesses here, and you and your wife came here and you started your business here.
Yeah.
So welcome, dude. That's awesome,
thank you.
man.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
So, all right. So, like, now that we've given that background and everybody knows that you came here because of our podcast, like, with the one single reason
There you go.
came all the way back to Gainesville. I mean, let's tell your story, man. So, to set up your background, like, you went to UF, right? Went to grad school.
Went to grad school. My background is a clinical health educator, so I work in basically health prevention. Had that little Vespa, sold it, moved to Dallas, worked there for about a year. Ultimately, we actually ended up in D.C. So I worked for a government defense contractor, and so my goal was to reduce healthcare costs. Claims go into the millions. So, like I said, my job was to get people off medications and to also avoid claiming anything, right? And so I had to do that with basic education, health education. So that's what I did. So we're talking about getting people off of medications, reversing diabetes, musculoskeletal issues, stuff like that. Anything that they had issues with, they could basically consult with me on site in the building, and I got them healthy. So a lot of it had to do with metabolic conditions, so obesity, polycystic ovary syndrome, and basically, like I said, getting those folks healthy and driving down the costs.
And so you were in DC till when?
So the last 5 years, and then we moved back, in April?
So you moved here from DC?
Yeah, straight from DC. Yep.
Okay. So what was the process like getting back to Gainesville? I mean, when was the last time you were in Gainesville?
So we have family. So actually,
right.
I have my parents live in High Springs.
Okay.
Her parents live in Jacksonville, and so we would come, during the summers and stuff like that. And that's part of one of the reasons why, we decided to come back was I saw the growth here, but I wasn't so sure. I put that next to the podcast, things that they were saying, and I was like, okay, well, I'm still unsure. And kind of what put it over the top was I have a friend that does fundraising at UF. And she basically said, Mike, there's a little bit of money in Gainesville. I was like, no way. I don't, because, you grew up here and stuff like that. You go to school, you don't see it. She was saying she does a lot of fundraising, and she goes to people all around here, and there's pockets. I mean, so that's what my biggest concern was, that there wouldn't be enough, money to go around for this specific business. She kind of eased the worries, and I was like, okay, well, let's go ahead and do it. So I put all of it together. I saw the growth, all the buildings going up, the housing going up towards Newberry and Archer, all that stuff, the podcast information, and then her information. I was like, well, let's roll the dice on this, and see what happens. And of course, it's cheaper to live here, and it's cheaper to, rent's cheaper, stuff like that for a building. So
cool. So when did you guys launch?
So in January of this year, actually, yeah, it's been a process. So a lot of planning and stuff like that. We've been wanting to have a gym for a long time, but I wasn't so sure I wanted to go in only solely with a gym. So I basically paired my background, my clinical education, with the gym concept, and what I was doing for them, I just decided to do it on our own. So.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, after working for about 5 years, I really enjoyed working for them. But, there's a lot of red tape, a lot of the trainings and stuff like that you go to. I just don't want to do that. I just wanted to help people, fix people, and have full control over their nutrition, their exercise, review their labs, all that stuff in-house, and basically just help them out, get them healthy.
You know what doesn't have a lot of red tape?
What's that?
Being an entrepreneur.
There you go. Yeah, we were heading in that direction. After a while, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Meeting these quotas, all this other stuff, and I was like, that was my goal, was just to help people, regardless of pay and all that stuff. Was to go ahead and do it. And so, which is where that idea kind of came from. It kind of stemmed from all the experiences we kind of been through, and then, of course, bringing it back here to see it might be a good place to do it. So
did you have like clients that kind of came with it, or like?
So no, this was actually fresh. So. Well, I'm sorry, with the exception, I've had a pretty large Instagram following for a while. I started dabbling in consults. probably in the last year or so.
What, just through Instagram?
Just through Instagram, yeah. So I started doing a lot of freebie stuff. So I would have a Q&A on Fridays, a health Q&A. You drop your questions. It started with no one asking me anything. And then when they started to see the value that I was answering pretty much everything that's health related, regarding meds, regarding their exercise, regarding nutrition, it started to pick up. And so you go from 20 people looking at it to thousands. And so I was like, but I still wasn't getting paid for it because I was salaried. I was working in D.C.
And you were just doing this live?
No. So just on the stories.
Oh, on the stories.
Yeah, just on the stories every Friday. And that's kind of how I built kind of the following. Like I don't promote anything. I don't sell anything. You won't see me holding up a bar and being like, oh, this is the best protein bar ever. No, I don't do any of that. It was just, I was working full time. I was salaried, and this was actually a fun little space for me. It wasn't even about a business at the time. I was just like, I'll help people out because they don't get the information from the practitioner. They don't. They just, here's your blood panel. There's some red dots on it. Here are your meds and go. But a lot of those metabolic conditions can be reversed metabolically through metabolic strategies, which is basically exercise and nutrition. So, I decided to help folks that way and then kind of grew the following. And so to answer your question, though, a lot of those folks kind of carried over from Instagram, and I was doing consults, half-hour sessions, full-hour sessions. And when
they would just DM you and say, hey, can you consult with me?
But because people repost it, if I helped them with their macros or I helped them reverse a condition, there are women on there. It's kind of funny. They'll repost stuff like, Mike got me pregnant. And the reason why is because I help reverse their PCOS, which is basically, cysts and growing on, making it very difficult for them to bear children. And so nutritional changes, we reestablished their hormones. And basically they would virtually, from the education I provided, they would follow it and they would get pregnant and not, like I said, after being years told they couldn't have children.
All right, so how many women have you gotten pregnant?
Too far, Collin. No, it's funny though, but definitely a couple. It will surprise me when someone tags me and they're like, I give all the credit to Mike and partially my husband, and it's like some sort of joke, but it's always good to see that, you know what I mean? And that's what I got into it for, not necessarily to charge hourly for whatever service. I mean, it's nice to see that these, especially for women, they've been suffering for so long, that finally there's an option for them, and it doesn't require birth control to reestablish their hormones. It's just a lot of the stuff they're doing maybe can be done differently. So
how many clients did you pick up on the consulting side through Instagram?
I mean, I've done a ton. I mean, probably hundreds.
And you're just charging an hourly rate. You're just like, I'll consult with you.
Basically,
is there
I
any
charge hourly
agreement,
rate.
or is it just like, hey, whenever you need it?
So I'll do hourly rates, half-hour rates, and then I have subscription service, so they can do it every month. I do consults here in Gainesville as well. Some folks don't want to come to the Lift Lab, and so I'll just do it virtually. But most...
and are you scheduling phone calls with them? Are you doing face-to-face stuff?
Through Zoom, yeah.
Okay.
So I have a scheduler. Once they book it through the system, it automatically goes. They get the link, and then they fill out basically a little intake form that their health history, their current lifestyle behaviors, what they're looking for, current meds, all this. So basically everything I did for the defense contractor, I kind of stole that platform, but now I'm using it, obviously, getting actually paid for it, paid more. But yeah, so then that's how kind of it started. I developed that following all through Instagram. I don't do YouTube. I don't do Facebook. I put in a lot of time, and to be honest, a lot of free time. Not for this business, to be honest with you, but just because it's what I like to do, and I cared for these people, right? And I still do it. I haven't missed a Friday. Every Friday, I drop a health, exercise, nutrition Q&A that everyone just goes to, and they drop their questions. I respond to it. And
so, are you just using the question thing on Instagram stories?
Yep,
and
that's
they're
it.
just submitting their question.
Exactly.
And then you just answer it.
I'll answer it.
How many hours does it take to do that? I mean, if you're getting a ton of them, a lot? Is it like this is a Friday thing?
No, I mean, I've gotten so used to the questions, and you develop, basically you get faster at them because a lot of the same questions. I mean, it's human nature that all these diseases are the same, hypertension, inflammation, all those things. So they're pretty easy to answer. It does take a little bit of time. And so at the time when I was doing it for fun because it actually helped me stay on top of, basically it's like continuing education. That's what it is. If you don't see challenging cases, you're not going to try to learn anything new if you just keep seeing the same thing. So part of me was that this is actually helping me, even though it's helping them. It lets me stay on top of all the new, developments and stuff like that in health. But yeah, it does take a little bit of time. But I figured, maybe there's something to it. And we'll, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to monetize it. But for right now, I'm enjoying it. It's great.
I mean, you did monetize it if you're doing all this consulting.
Well, I did, right, correct. But at the time, I spent the perfect year, for a full year, just answering questions on a Friday night. And to me, there was value in that for me to grow. And then, correct. So now I'm monetizing.
Did you even did consulting even come across your mind, or it was like when somebody said, "Hey, do you do consulting?"
No, so it came across my mind because so I worked for General Dynamics, a government defense contractor, but I oversaw 5 sites for them in the D.C. area. So I would go to different sites, but because I was spread so thin, I would have people email me and say, "Hey, do you do this on the side?" Like actually wanted to get more, not just through the company because I didn't, my schedule was so tight to see them. They would reach out and they're like, "Can you do this on the side?" I'm like, "Okay, well, we'll try it out." And so that's kind of how it started. I started doing kind of freebies, and then I was like, okay, let's do calls and emails. And then I got into the Zoom stuff and, kind of got smart about it. And, so.
Dude, I don't know. I just always get fascinated by how people start to monetize off of a social media platform. And
that's the thing. Like at the time I had no intention of it.
Right.
I just said it was great. And I actually met with, I don't know if you know him, Vic Johnson. He heads a diabetic kitchen. I think he's housed in the UF Innovation Hub.
Oh, really? Cool.
So they do basically gourmet products for diabetics, and it's on Amazon and everything.
Dang.
I reached out because I was a fan of his products, not necessarily for me, but for the people I was working with, the clients who have diabetes and stuff like that. And when we came down one summer, I had a meeting with him, and smart guy, business guy. He's like, you need to do something with this website. You need to do something with this following. I was like, what do I do? He's like, for the past 2-3 years, we built like a listserv, and we just kept sending out recipes before we had everything done for our product. And I was like, oh, so that's how you do things. So he's like, if you have that influence, you have that background, you have the people that are following you, you have the power. And I was like, oh. And I still didn't know what he was talking about. So I went home, I started doing a listserv for my website. All of a sudden I got hundreds of people signing up because they found value through my Instagram, the information I was giving out, reversing conditions and all that stuff. And so he actually changed my life probably in the past year before we came down, year and a half. I can't remember when I met up with him. But yeah, it basically showed me what to do with the website. He basically planted the seed. And after that, I just kind of ran with it. And then that's where the whole monetizing the...
Did you not feel like you were bringing a ton of value? Like at that, and like in your process, in your mind at that time, it took this gentleman saying like, you're bringing all this value. And the reason I asked that is because one of the things that I still always do is I feel like I never put enough value on myself. I always feel like I'm
correct. So actually with Michelle, she would be like, "What are you doing and spending these nights just staying away from the family, all that stuff, just answering these DMs and these questions?" I'm like, it's what I like to do, and I don't know. I'm going to do something with it, but I didn't know what to do because I don't have a mentor for that or guidance and all that stuff. I just kept wanting to do it because I enjoyed it, and I was hoping that it would turn into something, but I had no clue what to do with it until I met with Vic, which I actually just met with him because I just love your product, man, and all that stuff. And then it turned into like, you have a lot of good stuff. I went to your website, but like, what are you doing with it? And I was like, I don't know. It's just, I just bought the name and I just kind of sat on it for a little while. I didn't know what to do with it for a long time. And then all of a sudden I just started, like I said, doing consults and people reposted, and that was that. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
So I was reading your LinkedIn profile, and I saw the quote that says, "I was the fat kid who loved cake. Years later, I traded the cake for a salad."
Yeah,
and I love that. So I was kind of interested in just what your personal journey was, and then, however that was, how did it gravitate towards focusing on women as your demographic?
All right, how much time do you have? Okay. So I think just growing up on bread and cheese whiz and stuff like that, things that at the time we didn't know were unhealthy, but now it's like, we've like, ugh.
Cheese whiz is so good, though.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I don't ever
I can't say I admit, yeah, exactly.
Except when I go to Philly and they put it on the Philly cheesesteak.
Yeah, that's probably the real stuff.
With or without?
Oh yeah, that's true. So yeah, I grew up. I wouldn't say I was obese or anything like that, but I husky kid, had a little bit of weight on me, and basically I also had asthma, so I couldn't do the little presidential miles or the pull-ups or anything like that. Kind of hit it. I was like, I don't want to run a mile. That's for I'm too cool for that, even though I couldn't, right? So years later, I decided to kind of go into fitness, started working out. I actually got certified as a trainer at the time. So this was before I got my clinical background. And that kind of started that journey with the whole, like, one day I would like to have a gym. But it was just, patterning it off of like a Gold's Gym, like just a basic gym, $1 a day, $30 a month, whatever. That was the original idea. And then, so kind of coming back, full circle, once I got the clinical training, I started to realize, and I hate to say it this way, but a lot of the stuff I was taught wasn't 100% true. I would go out when I was working in D.C., I would give the information out to people. They would reduce their A1Cs, reduce their blood glucose, and improve their diabetes, but they would never reverse it. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you can reverse it. So I started doing more research, and then once I got to that point, that's where my whole kind of world changed as far as health and how I view it, is that not everything that is put out, that is taught, is 100% true. And it's not until you challenge it and then you get different results, you're like, oh, maybe, and then you keep doing it and you keep getting those same results where people are getting better, like, oh. So that's basically kind of the background, that it went from specifically, it's about weight loss, let's turn it around, get strong and help other people. But you realize it's more than weight. It's about how the body is internally. What do those blood numbers look like? Is there a lot of inflammation? CRP levels high, stuff like that. And that's kind of where that kind of brought me back to health, but also challenging the status quo for, like I said, what we're taught and what exists out there, and what you would receive if you went to your doctor or whatnot. So
that's interesting.
So what's been the biggest challenge so far? 2 months, 2 months in, got a new business. Did you have any trouble when it came to the city, getting set up, anything that was unexpected? Or
we had been looking for a place for a while, so in a little spot to lease. We just couldn't find the right spot. We tried to squeeze it into like the building, but like it doesn't seem like it would fit. Then we found a place where it was basically offices in the front, and then it opens up to whatever, 10, 12
warehouse
feet. Yeah, basically warehouse
like
in the
half
back.
and half.
Exactly. So have offices in the front, have a little childcare for kids or whatever, and in the back we have the full gym. And so I was like, this is the spot, And so it's actually near Ward, so it's very close to there. I think that was the biggest challenge, finding a spot. I think the biggest challenge now is starting over in the city, meaning that friends left, the network left, and trying to reestablish that. I think that's the biggest thing, but which is why I joined the chamber and doing some other things, trying to kind of network and kind of spread this idea. But I think that's the biggest challenge for us right now, is really just, because it's one of those things, you just don't put a sign on, people come in. You really have to network and build the community and stuff like that, which you guys always preach anyways. For this Gainesville community, you have to do that. So a lot of our business, like I said, is online, so it's floating on that while we still build basically the foot traffic. So.
All right, so that's been the biggest driver so far, just online or online presence?
Absolutely, yeah. So
is your influence through Instagram for yourself personally also contributing to that, or no, most of those people are elsewhere?
What do you mean, like as far as
in terms of, so you're consulting with a bunch of people through Instagram. Has anybody through your Instagram account become like a client at your gym, or?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and some folks that have been following me actually were based in Gainesville, just random. Like I get people from all, Las Vegas, California, Canada, and there's a lot of people in Florida. In fact, there's someone who also, we have a virtual training program too, not just the consults, but basically a virtual, where I push out the programming, I push out the consults, and it's a subscription service. So some of those folks, they live in Florida. I actually have one coming up from Orlando, coming to train pretty soon, probably next 2 weeks. So a lot of the folks that are local, they try to. I have some folks in Jacksonville that come over as well. So it's one of those that, these people that, you find online, or they meet you online, you like to provide so much value, and they're like willing to come and learn. Like they see the good stuff.
They feel like they've already built the relationship with you.
No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Through a social media platform, they already feel a connection. They already know you.
And I'll do the same thing. Like when we go visit family in Jacksonville, I'm, hey, anybody you want to train, like for free, like let's just go train. Like I'm going to go to the gym and train anyways. You want to learn something? Let's go. I don't charge them at that point. It's just, hey, they'll sign up, they'll drive like an hour or whatever it is to get there, if they're a little like Fernandina Beach or something like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's been actually good to, especially off the Instagram, to kind of leverage all of that stuff now, but not leverage it from point of let's make some money, but like I said, those relationships turn into a little bit that provide more value, basically. So
Okay, so how many different revenue streams do you have then? Because you have the consulting,
yeah.
and you're pushing the programming out online.
So basically the consulting, and that's, hourly or subscription, the virtual programming, which is a subscription, is a completely different service. And then also the stuff that's on-site in-house, which is the same stuff, right? So we do the training, and then of course we have nutrition consults and stuff like that.
So is the stuff that you're doing like virtual programming wise, I mean, this is video content creation? What is it?
Yeah, so basically I do the programming each week for the exercises that they're going to do. We focus, it's a long story, but we focus on posterior stuff for women. But the program goes out, I record all the videos in-house at the Lift Lab, and I post those up, and then that's in a members page, so they have access to that. And then we also have a Facebook group that's private, which they can basically interact. It's accountability. It provides that. I'm not just working out and viewing the videos on my phone at the gym. I'm actually, Susie over here is doing the same workout, and she's suffering, right? Because of how many reps I told them to do, whatever. So, but it's good because it helps them along. And that's the biggest thing I found out, is that you can always just tell someone, teach someone something, they'll go off, they'll do it, and they'll drop off. So once you have full control over everything, people can get healthier faster. You're looking at their nutrition, you're looking at their exercise, you see what they're doing and making those connections. And that's when those big changes happen when their health. Compared to, let's say, if you have a doctor that you diagnosed with diabetes, they say, go lose weight, eat vegetables, and you'll get better. Here's your medication. You go off, you talk to your trainer doesn't know how to read a blood panel, they just know how to build muscle. So they're like, okay, well, let's build muscle, you need to see a nutritionist, you go see a nutritionist. They don't actually understand what you're going through, how to reverse that condition, because honestly, dietitians, nutritionists, they're not taught to reverse diabetes. That's just part of like their credential. You can't really talk about that stuff. So by having that basically network where I'm able to oversee all aspects for only metabolic conditions. So like I said, all those cardiovascular disease, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, obesity, all that stuff can be reversed if you have the right program. And that's something I think, like I said, it's a little bit different for this area, but that's kind of what we have for basically the revenue streams on the on-site, or on-site presence, and then the online stuff. But I don't venture, or at least I haven't ventured off into the YouTube stuff and all that stuff. And it's possible, it's just a little bit of work, but I mean, right now, I was going to say, to do all that stuff, and then it's just,
It's fascinating to me because more and more companies, and I would say a lot of fitness companies, are becoming content creation companies. When I look at like Peloton is not a gym. It's not selling you a bike. Yeah. It's a content creation company.
Yeah. And they're just building that network. And like I said, Susie is here doing it with you. Honestly, it's not the best exercise that you can do, but people don't buy that bike for the exercise. They buy it for the network, community, their sister. Exactly.
Right.
They buy it for the community.
That's the word right there, is the community. Especially when you start putting people in those Facebook groups together. You're building community. And that's why it wins.
And that's the thing. When I got into it, I didn't really know how. I didn't look at it from another revenue stream. I said, people would message me, because I would always post my workouts on Instagram as well. They were like, "That's a pretty cool workout. That's different from what I'm doing. Do you do programming?" Okay. So it's whenever the demand was there and the question was there, it's like I started to provide. I'm like, okay, well, let me do this. Honestly, I didn't know how to do any of that, right? But I just said, okay, you want to learn how to do it? Maybe I can do a video for you and I'll send it. And then it kind of went to the whole website thing, and then now posting videos, and then now doing the program. So it's where that gap is for the need for the population I work with, which is mainly women. And then that's how new things kind of arise from that. So.
What's the age group that you work with? Is it all like a certain age, or do you work all across the board? Or? Across the board, but so remember, a lot of these metabolic conditions really start to happen in their 30s and 40s. So typically I catch them in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. So not just metabolic conditions, but biomechanical, musculoskeletal issues too, low back pain, they have fractures, hip pain, stuff like that, which we also address not online because you can't really do that, but on site we do that as well. So I assess for muscle deficiencies and stuff like that. So. But yeah. Cool. You're only a couple months in. Yeah. Right. So what's on the goal list
for 2020? You know, did you guys project any like revenues, or you're like, I want to get X number of clients this year? Like what went into your goal setting process for your first year as a startup?
Yeah, and so the biggest thing is, for, like I said, focusing on getting those people in, like getting a certain number of members in, obviously to float the business, all that stuff. So this was before all the online stuff. So when we did the research, we're like, we need to get so many people in per month. Now that we have the online stuff, it's like, well, now we don't have to try as hard, but we still have to go out there. So instead of recruiting folks, you know, to go ahead and come in, now we have time to basically build our network. So go to these events and stuff like that and see if we can get some referrals and such. So
which one drives you more from a passion standpoint? Is it the one-to-one, like working with them inside the gym, or is it, or are you already seeing that, okay, the online stuff, the consulting, this programmatic stuff is starting to like get some traction? Like, do you start putting more time there because you recognize that it's because from the outside in, I'm like, oh, that's way more scalable. It's way more scalable to do that.
So now that I'm
like have one-to-ones with people all the time.
I'm seeing that now. Is that, you know, because you're right. You have one-on-one. You have that full hour, and that how many hours you have left in the day,
right?
You know, compared to, you know, cutting it down to whatever the subscription price is, and then having like 10 or 15 or 20 people, you know, kind of sign up. You know, I would say from a business standpoint, absolutely, it's easier, it's more scalable to do something like have an online presence. And also personally, you can help more people that way. And in my field in health prevention, you can touch more, affect more people. So I'm at a point to where I'm kind of like both, but I am kind of enjoying a little bit on the line stuff because like I said, I can touch more people. I can send more messages. I can go into the Facebook group. I can interact more than if I were to, like I said, have 5 people in the room we're training, and I'm doing, and it's, you know, it's a little bit different. So I would say I am more for some of the online presence as of now, because I've seen the exponential growth. You know, it was like 1 or 2 people, and then when they repost this, repost that, oh, he did this, he did that for me, then all of a sudden they're trickling in. You get emails, and they're like 3 or 4 new people that, you know, day, and then they just add up, and then of course, like I said, it's a subscription service, so it's you know, the revenue is in there, and it just kind of keeps on coming, as long as you keep providing the value, of course, which, like I said, I never viewed it as more money's come in. I said, how can I, like I said, impact these women? And so I had to come up with really good programming. So right now I'm spending a lot more time than I should thinking about the programming, thinking about how it's going to impact their health and their bodies and all that stuff. But I'm hoping to reach a point to where I can kind of cut that back. But, you know, time-wise, I can, you know, use my time for some other things. So
yeah. All right. So thinking about YouTube and versus Instagram, right? Just because I'm such a social media freak.
No.
So your Instagram stories, which I know brought a ton of value to the people who saw them, but then they disappeared. Right? Like, you don't have those Instagram stories, the ones that you did on Friday nights.
Oh, correct. Yeah, unless you archive them or whatever it is, or
so
highlight.
My question is, what if you did? Like, what if you still had that content and those conversations, and they were on YouTube, still providing value?
Well, and that's the thing. So it's funny. I was on some other Instagrammer's page, and of course they do the YouTube stuff, right? So I didn't really look at it, but it was one of those, they give you the clip, right? They give you a clip, and then someone leaves a comment like, well, what is it? Oh, we'll go watch the video, right? And so they get a little irritated. So I'm reading these comments, right? And basically, and this is what part
of, were they trying to sell something? Or is it like,
no, they weren't. It was actually, it was a physical therapist, and they were, just showing how to do something, right?
Gotcha.
But he basically outlined the idea, because I never really looked into it well, and they basically talked about the revenue stream, how they get more folks kind of going there, and so that's one of the reasons why. And then you justify that you should get paid for that service, and of course, because it does. And so that's the stuff that I was providing, but I never got paid for at the time, and so now I start to see it. I'm like, okay, that's there's a value in there, so let's go ahead and try to do something. So I just saw that post yesterday, so I'm like thinking about it, but I'm like, how much more work is it going to take? Because I'm still trying to grow this side, and it's one of those things. But I definitely think it's valuable for sure, especially all the content. Yeah.
The truth is, I'm just curious as to what people are thinking when they go through that content creation process. You know what I mean? the answer could be that it's just more intimate with it being through stories. It's like with people who are already following you, and then it brings in more followers.
Because I'll do the highlights and I'll save them, and I'll still get messages that people are still going through those highlights and watch them, and they'll send me a message. Well, what do you mean by this? Oh, thanks for sharing. They'll repost that was tucked away in the highlights for forever. Yeah. Now, from a revenue standpoint, of course, you don't get paid for that, but of course, internally it brings me value, because I really, I'm supporting someone. But like I said, now that I'm kind of not knee deep into it yet, but I'm like starting to see, okay, well, I'm helping people, and I'll also justify getting paid for it. Why not, right? Because you're producing a lot, right? That's what I went to school for. And so now I'm starting to see, maybe I should kind of branch off, and so I'm starting to do a little bit more research with that. But
yeah. So. Well, and the thing with YouTube that a lot of people don't realize, or at least they don't realize at first, is that you can make money on YouTube.
No, absolutely.
From the ad, like YouTube will pay you.
Well, that's
and it doesn't really have to do with as many people you gotta have thousands of subscribers, which is not necessarily the case. Because if your videos are good and they're optimized well, I mean, with New Scooters for Less, a lot of people don't realize we only have 2,500 subscribers ish, maybe close to 3,000 subscribers on our New Scooters for Less YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. But dude, YouTube's paying us every month, and it's because a lot of the videos are getting 100,000 views. Yeah. Just because of the content.
Well, it's funny because like I said, after I saw that post, I'm like, Google, how to get paid for YouTuber. Yeah. So I look it up, and I'm like, people actually get paid a pretty good penny. Like, not even big people. I'm just talking about just average Joes. I'm like, no wonder there's so much random stuff on there, because people are like, oh, I got a new cat, and I'm like, who cares? But apparently that because they're getting paid for it, somebody cares to watch a video, and I'm like, oh, so they do get paid a bit of money to do this. So that's what I started thinking about.
And the reason my brain automatically starts going off on the things that you do is because YouTube, a lot of people go to YouTube for how-tos.
Right, yeah,
right? So if you how to do this particular exercise, or how to do this, or how to do that content does really well.
Right, yeah.
And we'll get a lot of views, especially if you spend the time to optimize from titling and the description and keywords and stuff like that.
Well, and that's what I'm starting to see now too, especially with
captioning.
Well, even with our Women's Lift Lab Instagram, we'll do posts very educational that goes against the grain of whatever, like I said, we're taught. And we would kind of leave it off to the point to where, want to learn more type of thing. But then that means they would have to DM us or whatever, and there's no clear follow-up. So now I think it's at that natural progression to where, okay, we see this, what we're doing, we're trying to drive people in, but what else can we provide? And so I think that's actually a good opportunity, as you mentioned, to, well, how do you reverse diabetes? Is it a specific exercise, specific nutrition? Is it, what do you do without giving everything away, but then you can still get, paid for, right? And then you do YouTube or whatever it is. So now we're starting to kind of see that.
YouTube.
Ours?
Yeah. No, just go to YouTube. Oh. And type how to reverse diabetes. I just want to see what pops up. No, I mean, and I'm not trying to hard sell YouTube or anything, but I think it's funny because, YouTube's been around since 2006.
Yeah.
And I think that there's still so much room for growth for YouTube, and people have so much opportunity to,
I think the biggest, even the challenge for us is that we do recognize that there is some untapped dollars there for sure, for revenue wise, and also to help other people. I think the biggest thing is having
So
having the
how
resources.
to reverse type 2 diabetes pops up as a video by Diet Doctor with 553,000 views from 6 years ago. Yeah. So it wasn't even it wasn't even that long ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, you think about it, YouTube's been around since 2006. 6 years ago just wasn't that long.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That's cool. I mean,
and that's the thing. I think that's the biggest thing is having the resources to do it, because as you mentioned, it takes a lot. So either you can do it yourself, you can pay someone to do it, and so that's one of those lines you got to figure out. Is it worth it? Thing. Yeah, is it worth it? For me, time wise, it probably wouldn't. But would I pay someone to possibly do it? Maybe, if I saw that the return was there, for sure, absolutely. Hell, I would like for people to record my videos rather than me doing it by myself. But at the same time, we're kind of growing, so I'll just record myself, right? But eventually, I want to reach that point to where I can hire someone and do it, and I can just spend 2 minutes doing the exercise or whatever it is and do something else more productive, right?
Yeah, but see, that's where it becomes a problem too, is because I think this is just natural tendencies as us as business people, is that we want immediate ROI.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
we want to see the results right away. I mean, that's 6 years.
Right. Yeah.
It took he might have gotten there a year 4, but it took years to get to that
and now
point.
It's coming in,
and now
Right,
now it's up there. The SEO has been there. It's probably got a good description. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's, it's like, I mean, dude, I want to go to the gym with you tomorrow and I want huge muscles, but it's probably going to take a little bit longer than.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
So it's that process. And I actually use that analogy a lot when it comes to building brand or when it comes to getting results on social media.
Oh, absolutely.
Marketing. I'm like, dude, you're gonna go to the gym. I was like, I might have some like tone and some definition after a few months, but I ain't gonna really see the results.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I, like I said, for the past 3 years on Instagram, like I was just doing free work, spending these long nights, thinking it's gonna go somewhere. I had no clue where it's going. I have no clue how to do anything with it, but it seems like I'm building a following. So I just focus on building a following, and that's was the goal. It's just build a following and keep providing that value, So, but it definitely takes a lot of time. Completely agree.
Yeah, it's interesting because that philosophy is the same thing, and it seems like you're trying to like coach against. It's been 10 years, I think. I actually minored in nutrition, and one of the things I remembered from the University of Florida is them talking about the marketing aspect of that, and how, I mean, you can flip through a magazine page, listen to content, watch YouTube ads, flip on the TV, and it's big pharma ads down your face.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's take a pill for this, and so to your point about that, I think that's part of the problem is people would much rather find the pill that they can take to cure their woes and want an overnight solution, and then put in the work to maybe reverse something.
And actually that actually segues to another point, because I know you asked, or one of you asked about why I work with women exclusively, for the most part. So when I was in DC, anyone can come to the office, right? So men, women. Now granted, where I worked, about 75% of those employees were men, right? But I saw very few men. When they would come in, they'd be like, "Oh, okay, I'm 5 milligrams of this," but it's well managed. It's just blood pressure medication, no big deal. They think it's not a big deal, right? And obviously, there's underlying cause. But they didn't invest in the process of it. They just wanted that result, right? Because they were busy working, whatever. So women would come in and actually take the time, not just in the office, but follow-up appointments and all that stuff, and to see how we do things, what the process looked like, and really reverse the conditions. So after a while, I'm like, I always appreciate someone who takes the education and actually does something with it, right? Rather than just tell me what to do. I can tell you what to do, but nothing's going to happen only in that, first month or whatever. And so I started to hone in on women, and like I said, not from a financial standpoint, from only because they not only seem interested, but they have more challenges than men do. Mm-hmm. And let's be honest, if you're a guy, you have a certain health condition, you just go to the gym, and a lot of times it gets reversed for whatever reason, just magically. But women always tend to have a lot of problems. It's like I said, the biggest one, PCOS, and not being able to bear children, having difficulty to, from being on birth control all their lives, from hair falling out, brittle nails, always dieting, always sticking to salads and stuff like that. There's kind of like a societal impact to where they shouldn't, eat lots of meat, or they shouldn't, lift a lot of weight because they'll get too bulky, and stuff like that. And so that's kind of what I started going in that direction. Said we can reverse the conditions, but we have to lift heavy, and we have to avoid just eating salads and being in calorie deficit all day. And so it's one of those that kind of changed the direction of, okay, so women are more receptive and they're willing to invest in the process. So let's try this out. Let's work with women. But now we have to change the perception of you have to eat more than a salad, and you have to lift a barbell. You can't just go to Zumba classes and lift little pink dumbbells all day, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to reverse these conditions, you have to put on muscle, you have to put on mass. And that's a whole other thing why, and when you talk about reversing conditions, it's not just about the look. It has to do with metabolism and some other things. But
does that become a tough sell, though?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad you brought that up. It comes as a tough sell when you're trying to say, hey, your hormones are in balance. I can reverse those. How? I've been on medication for so long and it's not working. So honestly, I sell them on weight loss, to be honest. Mm-hmm. You come in, we'll get you strong, we'll lose weight. But at the same time, we're going to take a look at your labs. We're going to take a look at your metrics, your weight, your blood pressure, all these other things. Once they start making those physical gains in the gym, I show them what's happening here internally, and all of a sudden they put two and two together. Now they're more invested into it. Initially, of course, no one gets it. And you're like, you reverse diabetes? Okay, no, yeah, sure you do. It's not until they get in through, let's do that weight loss your doctor talked about. Come on in, we'll train you, we'll get you strong. And then once they see the other things that are happening, they'll stay for that and they'll kind of continue. So, but definitely, I completely agree. It's hard to sell that. I can reverse your condition, or I can improve your chances of getting pregnant.
Right.
Yeah,
because you do hear that a lot, or at least I do at the gyms I go to. Friends, it's from the women. It's I want to lose 3 pounds, I want to lose 5 pounds, I want to lose 10 pounds. Then you start talking about strength training, building muscles. But I don't want to look too muscular.
Yeah, right, that's the biggest thing. Yeah, and I think
it's an image thing. It's like you said. It's like they're indoctrinated from a young age about this is what it's supposed to be.
And I think that's part of exactly why we decided to do Women's Lift Lab, because I talk to women all the time. They'll go to the gym and who's looking in the mirror, right? It's just some guy with big muscles, and you see a little lady off on the side. In fact, the guy's probably on Instagram and you recording himself, and you see in the mirror reflection the little woman's over here. No, we want to tell women it's okay to lift, and you're not going to get big. So take your place in front of that mirror and let's go lift. You can be healthy too. You can have strong bones. You can have nice, strong muscles and all that stuff, and that's okay. So it's also part of what we're trying to do is not only reverse the condition, but reverse the perception of that women should be kind of coddled and they're not strong enough, or they shouldn't, do certain things that should be reserved for men. No, you should be there and you should do the work just like anything else. Like one of the biggest questions I get, actually I get this question a lot every Friday, is that, hey Mike, I'm 45, new to working out. What's the best workout for a woman? And I tell them the same workout that a man does, that everyone else does. You're going to do your squats, your deadlifts, your all these moves. That's what you're going to do. You may be a little bit lighter, or you may have different, foot stances, hip width, because different shape. But we all have glutes. We all have pecs. We all have biceps, triceps. We have the same muscle groups. You do the same exercise. And that's it. And so, but a lot of them find it very difficult to accept that because of the fact that, they've been just kind of, society has told them that they shouldn't do these things, and that, they'll get too big or whatever it is, like you said. So
it's interesting. Yeah.
Have you had any failures yet in these first couple months?
I wouldn't say failures, right? So you're learning experiences, but I think more so just starting off like all the kind of, tax ID numbers, all those little things that are kind of annoying. Like I have the concept, I can run with it, I can educate people, I can train people, all that stuff. But some of those little things I don't like to do is kind of like
the business part.
Yeah, the business part. Yeah. That's like for example, I'll book consults, right? And I tell people that unfortunately, and I'll like double book consults because I'm just not good at I shouldn't say that, but schedule your organization, right? But I'm good at educate, even like charting and stuff like that. When I chart in the notes and stuff like that for the people, I'll provide so much education that I'll forget to type in what actually happened in the conversation, right?
Right.
And so I'll do another consult 6 months from now, and I'll have a blank page, just some basic information. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing, at least for me or for us, is that all those little things that are not the sexy side of business,
processes,
exactly, even though they're important, exactly, and you have to have get all your just everything in line. I think that's the biggest struggle, and it's not necessarily hard. It's just labor intensive, right? Just labor intensive. How many people do we have on the online group? How much they're paying, and then also on the on-site stuff, and what does that look like? And figuring out.
We have a great PEO as a sponsor. They will handle your workers' comp. They'll handle your.
They eliminate all the headaches.
They will relieve you of all the headaches. I mean, they are awesome. APR, Advantage Personnel Resources.
It doesn't matter if you have one employee or 99.
There you go.
I'm gonna hook you up. It will alleviate those headaches. So, I mean, what do you think? So, what do you guys need from Gainesville right now? You came back and you're like in it.
I think the biggest thing is just having open ears for a lot of people to listen to the message. Like what we're trying to do is not simply have a place for women to lift weights. I mean, there's a lot of places for that. Well, not specifically for women, but to understand that, just like kind of as I mentioned, that women are capable of more, and they're capable of controlling their health more, and not leave it into the hands of their doctor. Like be able to basically be your own advocate and use us as a resource, but being open to that model that their condition that they've been living with for a long time, maybe there's a possibility they can reverse it without any medication. I think so, because whenever I go to a chamber event or something like that, the concepts still get a kind of mix. They don't know exactly because they don't know how it's done, because no one has ever done it before, at least in this area. But if you go online, people do it all the time. People reverse diabetes, reverse PCOS all the time. So I think here locally, especially in the South, it's just a hard concept. Like I could sell this idea in DC all day long because they get it. Down here, it's a little bit different. So I think the biggest thing
because there's not as much education. Like why? Like why is that?
Is it cultural or?
Yeah, is it cultural?
I think it's cultural, but also there's the education, also the resources. You go to DC, people are making $100,000 on average, and they'll drop a lot of money on prevention because if they get sick, they can't go to their job that makes $100,000 every year or more, right? And so they'll drop a lot of money on the health prevention. They'll go see coaches, they'll see trainers, nutritionists, and it's really big business there because there's so much money. And I would say $100,000 is like on the low end over there. A defense contractor pays you $200 easily, and you don't even need you just need a bachelor's degree in engineering, right? So so there's a lot of money that goes to there, but also they're, like I said, they're very educated, and I think it's culturally very accepted that you should go running, you should do this, you should go to the gym. Over here's a little bit different, and it could be financially, maybe resources, maybe just the concept of health prevention isn't here yet because you have big hospitals who just push out the meds and they're growing everywhere. So I think the concept is not here locally, but I think that's, we're not trying to grow it to where we have 100 members sitting in there. We're trying to keep it basically kind of small and local, so it's very a niche market. So we definitely want to make sure that the people understand, and that's okay not to have all of Gainesville understanding what we do. But I think just being open to the concept that, these conditions largely can be reversed. Do you have the right plan, and are you able to, and just kind of give us a chance type of thing. So I think that's the biggest thing. And of course, also just building the network, reestablishing the network since we did leave for a couple of years, all our friends left. And so it's one of those, making sure that we are, in the community and doing things, not even from a business standpoint, for just, that's what you do. Otherwise, you just be shacked up inside your house all day, right? So build that network and build the community too. So.
Yeah, so how's that been? You found everybody to be very receptive?
It's been it's been good. At least for like a lot of business owners, they completely understand how that's going. I think a lot of times it takes following the Instagram, following what we do and how do we do it, and seeing that value first gets people in. We've actually had some folks come in because they saw a story on someone else's page that we networked with and we spoke to. So it's been good that way, and as far as getting people to really understand. But I think when you first go to some of these events, it's kind of like no one ever talked about reversing anything just through nutrition, because they weren't taught that. And they're taught you need to whatever, eat your salads and you'll be okay, your numbers will go down, but the concept is still not there. So I think part of it is that for us to kind of, like I said, not only establish the network, but maybe speak with key folks that work in the health industry, especially on the prevention aspects or some of the clinics, to understand that if you truly want to help these people, you have to do more than just give them meds. You have to give them the education to change their lifestyle behaviors and get better. But finding out, I think for a lot of folks, even like a lot of clinicians, they don't believe in some of that stuff. So they just kind of close their doors on you, right? And they're fine peddling the meds for metabolic conditions, which, like I said, you don't treat metabolic conditions through meds. You treat it through metabolic strategies, right? So nutrition, exercise, stuff like that. So I think that's the biggest thing, is really just not only the community, but knowing kind of what we do, but also kind of re-educating some of the practitioners to, okay, give us a chance, try it and see what happens to your patients. Do they reverse? I guarantee you they'll reverse conditions if they have a certain kind of plan that we kind of push out. So.
Just to switch up real quick, you got so you say you joined the Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
What have you gone to the events and that kind of thing? Yeah. All right, so what event?
4 hours, all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So which of the events that you've been to would you say has been the most valuable for you in particular?
Well, so we just signed up and we just started going. And
what have you gone to? You went to Business Before Hours?
We only went to Business Before Hours, of course, the CEO Insights. And then we of course, I think there was one tomorrow for the after hours or something like that. So your question is, what has been like a value?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had been to enough events for you to kind of gauge as to what's like providing you in particular the most value.
I don't think we haven't had the opportunity to go to a lot of events, but like I said, the ones that we've been to, like I said, the Before Hours, I think that was pretty helpful somewhat, right? So, you meet a lot of people, it's not enough time to establish those relationships. Now, I know that's not the concept, right? You're supposed to kind of take some of that stuff and go back. But I think sometimes there's a culture of it's like, what can you get for that second? What can you give me? And then we go off and nothing's kind of continuing. So I think if there was a different type of format, which you could actually spend a little bit more time, and maybe that's the after hours, like I haven't been, then it would be a little bit more valuable. I'm not going to say it's not worth it, because I think it's definitely valuable, especially for new businesses and all that stuff. But there's not enough time to learn about a specific business to really, show them what you're about.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a speed dating kind.
Right. Well, yeah, that's the concept.
That's like
exactly,
the concept of that particular. Yeah, I mean, if you go to like a chamber after hours, it's more just like networking.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. So I think, but not only that, but I think the relationships that are built through the chamber, and also, to be honest with you, I hit up a couple people on the podcast. So Rachel, Waka. Right.
Waka?
Yeah. So she
City Auto?
Yeah, City Auto. So she did my car, my mom's car from the podcast. The Tea Shop did her t-shirts when we first. Yeah. So it's been.
I'm expecting percentages of checks to start coming in. Just like all these royalties to start rolling.
So
in.
it's not even just doing not doing a ton of research. It's just saying I mean, they're on here. Give them business, they're local, the trust, and we just kind of go with it. And so, I think that's important too. So not even from the chamber standpoint, but even from the podcast, leveraging some of those and just say, hey, new business here, heard you on the podcast, great, and you start talking stuff like that. So
that's awesome, dude. That's cool. That's so cool. It gets me so juiced and just amped up, man. I'm like excited. So, this is episode 101, man. We're like,
I mean,
in the hundreds now.
For
this is crazy.
New business folks, I mean, it saves a lot of time. Now, I guess you can go shopping around and do all that stuff, but how much time does that take? So we're like, they're in the chamber, they've been in the podcast, just throw them a bone. Let's see if it's a bad experience. Don't have to go to them again, whatever it is, But, there's some value there. So someone finds value in them. So let's, give it a shot.
Yeah.
So
if it's a bad experience, you just email Collin and be like, why did you recommend this person?
Like, what's up?
So that person on the show, no.
I mean, we have to wrap up in a minute, but what would you say? So when you came back to Gainesville, what was like the biggest whoa?
There's so many more scooters.
Yeah, like what was the thing that was like, dang, I can't believe this is how much this has changed. Yeah, whatever, good, bad,
I think the worst part was the traffic on Archer and all that stuff. Like that didn't exist even just a couple of years ago per se. Well, I guess before the development and stuff like that.
That's always existed.
So
man.
I mean,
Archer road traffic.
Well, compared to like DC traffic, right?
Okay.
So going 10 miles, it would take you like more than an hour. So I mean, it's like. So it's definitely, I think, just the growth of all that, because I guess it's not really a good thing per se, but it's a good thing in terms of the area. But if you're kind of going through the area, it sucks, right? But I think the biggest thing is, like I said, I guess for my friend who did a fundraiser at UF, just saying that kind of trying to grow Gainesville into like a mid-sized city, right? And to where, like I said, you retain some of the students, from the graduating students, stuff like that. So to me, kind of seeing that growth was good to see. It was good to see that there's stuff that's going up. Maybe it's not as fast as something like in DC and all that stuff, but if we can, like I said, kind of come in and kind of grow with that, then that would be awesome, a great opportunity. So I think for us, that was the biggest thing. But even kind of going what you were mentioning, the biggest kind of segue to it, even before all that stuff, whenever you guys did in the beginning, the what do you like about Gainesville stuff? That kind of, I started thinking more, not totally sold, but I was like, that's kind of cool. Like when they're talking about it, because as you mentioned, and you mentioned this on the podcast, that the folks that are on here only see it from the student side, right? Mm-hmm. I couldn't wait to get out of Gainesville. We couldn't wait to get out of Gainesville because we never left campus, right? So grad school, you're so busy. You go to class, you go home, go to class, go home. And then after torturous years, you're like, I'm ready to go. So we moved to Dallas, right? But then you start to see that all the other stuff around here, that it's not necessarily a bad place, it's just never giving the opportunity. So I think that's part of like when I heard those stories early on, and I was like, okay, I put that in a little book so I can kind of factor that in as something else and factor this in. So, but yeah, hopefully it kind of answers your question, but that was kind of like,
it kind of answers like the questions that we'd like to typically end with. I mean, we get into like, what would you like to see happening in Gainesville? Where's Gainesville missing its potential? We've asked those questions a lot.
Yeah. And even something like that, so it's funny. So we saw all the developments like going towards Archer and Newberry, stuff like that, like all the housing developments, I mean. But one thing I never fully understood was, why are they building so many houses when at least I don't see the businesses, like the jobs yet? Now, I wasn't fully into it, right? So I don't know what else is going on. Like, so when you're outside looking in, it's like, they're building for something. I just don't know what, right? So you may know something because you're really knee deep and you guys are in the business aspect. But I'm like, why are these? They're building something. They did their research, so something's coming. I just don't know what. So that was part of the reason why that. Okay, well, like you don't just put a Publix somewhere. Like they did the research like 20 years earlier. And they're going to put it where there's going to be some sort of growth. So I saw these houses. I'm like, okay, so maybe there's something growing here, but I don't see it yet, right? Some other businesses or buildings or something to house businesses in. So that's kind of another, like I said, didn't answer your question, but that's what I would kind of like to see, is that not only the growth that's happening there, but I would love to see who's going to fill those houses and like from what jobs, like what exactly is happening. Because then that, as an entrepreneur, I would like to see, that helps me understand the kind of the landscape of things rather than seeing a bunch of houses and maybe outside looking in, you don't see the buildings or the jobs or whatever it may be. So
why?
Yeah, exactly. But something's there, right? So, which is why they're building it. I hope so, at least.
Everybody hang on.
There you go.
Gainesville is, it's just super cool to just see a lot of the discussions that have been happening, to see a lot of the growth. And
yeah,
I don't know. I just get excited thinking about the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like I said, there's something going on. We just I personally don't know about it, but I'm sure someone does. And so, like I said, they don't build things just because. They need to unload those things.
For sure.
So, where can our audience connect with you? Where can they find your business, like website?
Oh, so we're actually located, our physical address is located near Ward, so it's actually across from the Greyhound. There's like a little strip back there. And as far as our website, it's womensliftlab.com. We have an Instagram as well. It's women's_lift_lab. And then my personal Instagram is Dr_health_ed, Dr. Health Ed for health education. So
gonna be there on Friday, man.
I'm
gonna be
Ask all
in
your
there
questions,
Friday,
right?
Answer all those questions.
There you go.
Extract that value from them for free.
For free while you can, right?
On
while you can.
Insta stories.
Before I put it on YouTube, that's what's going to happen.
Colin's going to build you out a YouTube channel. It's going to happen.
And you work this business with your wife,
Yep.
Michelle, who's here. She did not really want to be on the show.
Yeah, she's not much of a talker.
But we just wanted to give her a match out because you're a huge piece of this.
Yeah.
Huge piece of this.
She's actually a large piece of the idea to go with women, to be honest. I didn't necessarily tell that full story. So I worked with women, but initially it was just going to be called the Lift Lab. Anybody, right? Anybody with a chronic health, metabolic condition can come, men, women. And she really kind of pushed in that direction that maybe you should focus on women because they have that struggle. And I started thinking about it more. I was like, it's a niche market and all that stuff, but kind of buying into those biases. Like they don't get attention. I was like, no, let's just do it. Let's just do it. I think you're right. It may be hard to kind of get off and try to convince, but even with our online presence, we have people signing up for the virtual training and people going through. I'm like, oh, there is a need out there. People, they just didn't have that voice and that support. So now when you give it to them, it's like, oh, okay, so they do exist. So maybe it's feasible, right? So yeah, but she's a big part of that as far as going in that direction. So
well, tons of success to you guys. I wish you guys the very best.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
I look forward to seeing like the growth and everything that happens. I'm super glad that your business is here in Gainesville, baby.
There you go. Yeah.
Congrats to both of you guys. And thanks for being here, man.
No, I appreciate the invite. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Podcast fam, look, we need you guys to go leave us a review on iTunes. Is that how you left us a review yet?
Yeah.
You have? Good. Mm-hmm. Mike, I'm proud of you. Michelle, have you
straight from the phone, yeah.
No.
Michelle's going to go right after this and leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you guys listen. Hey, and connect with me personally at Collin. My first name has 2 L's, Collin, Austin.com. And then you can find the social media platforms, connect with me everywhere because I want you to message me and let me know what you want to see more of. Message Mike too at Michael Dees on Instagram. Are you going to answer your DMs?
Yeah.
He promised.
I started doing better at that.
Have you?
Yeah.
All right. I've been getting on it. I'm like, dude, you got to answer your DMs, man. Get in there. So
I saw some things I wasn't really sure I wanted to see, but now I cleaned them all out and we're good.
But yeah, let us know what you like. Let us know what you want to see more of. I'm super curious on the Mastermind stuff.
For sure.
I would love to know the topics that you guys want us to focus on when it comes to that, because we just kind of committed ourselves to doing that every 10 episodes. And and if you don't want to message us on our personal platforms, then you can always message the podcast at WHOAGNV. I'm in there all the time. answering those too. So you guys, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you guys. Mike, thanks again to you guys for being here. And this is the WHOA GNV podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa. We will see you later.